Hi everyone, thank you for delaying your lunch to come and listen to what we have to say, and I appreciate it. It's really warm today, so yeah, sitting in a greenhouse on a day like this is not necessarily what you want to do, but I definitely appreciate it. So I'm going to talk to you about marketing ROI and how you can really enhance that using AI. My name's Alex McFadyen, I'm the EVP of Technology at BENlabs, and we have also Mark Bassett with us, who is our Senior Director of Strategy and Business Development. BENlabs is an AI company, and we're focused on human attention and behavior. And you probably haven't heard our name, but I can almost guarantee you've seen the work that we've done. All of these beautiful pictures, which unfortunately this screen is not showing very well at the back, are not just filler. Those are all product integrations that we've done. So everything from the car in Bumblebee, to KFC in Stranger Things, to James Bond drinking a Heineken, right through to influencers and people like that, like Mr. Beast and Dude Perfect are up there as well. We've been doing it for a really long time. We've been in the product placement industry for over 40 years. We've been in the influencer and creator space for over 14. And through our various SaaS products and services, we've been working with over 14 million different brands and creators during that time. We're really at the beating heart of the creator economy, and we are some of its biggest champions. We've been able to work at this scale and for this length of time because technology is our core. We've got numerous patents and we've got numerous awards to kind of back that up, but it's really our passion for the creator community and economy that is what powers us and keeps us moving forward. So, on to the important part, marketing ROI. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why influencer is so important when you're talking about marketing, and specifically why AI is so important to influencer. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the opportunity that once you've kind of solved the ROI problem, what other opportunities then start to present themselves? And then I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to take us through some of the examples of where that success has been really leveraged by building on the trust and the abilities of those technologies. And then finally, as long as I speak fast enough, we'll have some time for conclusions and questions at the end. So, why am I talking about influencer when I'm talking about marketing? Well, because 90% of marketeers now believe that influencer marketing is a very effective form of marketing, and they are right. This has not always been the case. We've been in the industry for 14 years. There's a Gandhi quote that keeps getting misattributed, which is first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. We are definitely in the win stage of that quote right now, as everyone's kind of worked out this is by far one of the most effective forms of advertising and marketing. And the impact that it has is undeniable at this point. Many of you may recognize, again, sorry for the lack of brightness on the screen, Mr. Beast, one of the most popular influencers and YouTubers in the world, took that fame and that popularity and that distribution and turned it into many different businesses. The example here is chocolate bars. Never made a chocolate bar before, had no track record in the industry, and within 72 hours had sold 1 million bars, and then went on to send $10 million worth in the first month. London's very own KSI teamed up with Logan Paul to produce a drinks company, and again, no previous drinks experience, and yet they sold out across retail stores worldwide within 4 hours. And those are really impressive, and those might be the ones that you recognize, but the ones on the other side are from China, and you may not be so familiar with them, and yet their achievements put these guys to shame. The one that you can see just there is Lipstick Brother, and they did 1.9 billion with a B of sales in a single live stream. Crazy, absolutely crazy. And it's this, they are really obviously the very pinnacle, but they are part of this huge explosion that we've seen of creators, of platforms, and of content. And it's that explosion, that huge scale that has meant that companies, both platforms and brands and creators, are turning more and more to AI to be able to help deal with this huge, huge scale. To give you an idea of just when I say huge, huge, what I mean, various stats out there. This one says 300 million global creators and productions. It probably is even a little bit low. 300 million people creating content. Crazy number. Let's make that more tractable. Let's just talk about YouTube. YouTube has about 58 million creators on it. That's the population of the England next year. Every single person you walk past in the street today, every single child, in all of the other cities, all of them are YouTube creators. That's the sort of number that we're talking about. Making it even smaller, let's just limit it to the biggest YouTubers, the ones who have got 1 million following or more. That's still enough to fill Chelsea's football stadium. Every single seat in Chelsea's football stadium being occupied by a YouTuber who has more than 1 million followers. This is a huge market. And it's not just the creators that have exploded. The number of platforms has also massively increased. Yes, you've got the top 5 who've all got over 1 billion users on them, which again is a crazy number. But the long tail goes on for a really long way. The number of platforms that have got 5, 10, 15 million active users, and obviously creators on them, is ever increasing. And the interesting thing is, these are not homogenous. Each of these platforms has their own way of talking to their users, their own communities, their own cultures, and that's a huge amount of information and a huge amount of opportunity as brands to be able to understand. One of my favorite quotes when it comes to marketing is this, which was made many, many years ago, but the problem still remains true today, which is John Wanamaker. Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. Now, with modern attribution and the fact that lots of the purchases are made that are being digital, we have a much better chance of understanding after the campaign has run which parts were successful and which ones weren't. But you still need to run the campaign, and so up front, that's still a problem. And so looking at how brands would work and engage in the influencer marketing space, many of them follow a pattern similar to this. They will start by working with influencers that they know personally or that are known to their brand. Maybe their kids watch them, maybe the marketing director watches them. They really get it, they see the brand fit, and those campaigns tend to go really, really well. Off the back of that, they decide they want to get a bit more serious, they want to bring in some help, maybe they hire a team, then maybe probably get a spreadsheet to track everything, and that ROI question starts to kick in. And that scales to a certain point until your spreadsheets start to crash, or you start worrying about versioning and all that kind of fun stuff. And so then you get a database. And you find that maybe your ROI is starting to drop a little, and you don't really know why. And you start asking questions like, should we add more tools? Should we be jumping on trends faster? Should we be accessing more creators? Should we start working with micro-influencers and stuff like that? Or should we do the other thing and actually work with brand ambassadors and really double down on a few really big names? Should we be trying out new platforms? And this is all problems, or these are all opportunities that are occurring because of the huge scale that exists. And this is where AI comes in. Anytime anyone's talking about AI, everyone talks about scale. And it's because that amount of data is absolutely perfect for AI, because that's what it needs in order to be able to thrive and needs to be able to be effective. And we really firmly believe that AI is the center of the creator economy, as this intersection between brands and creators can result in some truly magical things, which Mark will show you a little later. But when we're talking about data, and specifically when we're talking about entertainment data, it's really important that you think about two different types. Many people are much more familiar with the structured data, which is the clicks, the views, the conversions, maybe the category or the country that an individual influencer or campaign may be happening in. And that's great, and you can get quite far with that. But it only represents a very small percentage of the data. The big piece is actually the unstructured data. It's the video, it's the text, it's the comments, it's the interactions between the different audience members. And when you start layering in the unstructured data, you can do some really quite remarkable things. In the early phases of the influencer marketing world, people would often try and price how much they should pay an influencer based on the number of subscribers they had, because it was a nice, easy number that everyone kind of looked at. Problem with that, as they quickly found, is you might have 1 million subscribers, but maybe they signed up 2 years ago and they don't watch your content anymore. So actually, maybe views is a better way of looking at it, right? How many views did you get in your last 5 videos, and we'll price you based off that. Which again can work, but you're missing the nuance. A good example of that would be a rock band or any other band. If they do a music video, that thing's going to generate 10,000, 100,000, maybe even 1 million views. If they do a blog post about them being on tour, a couple of hundred, maybe, depending on how big the band is. And so you have a bimodal a distribution of the views. That's only evident if you can look at the content. So it's in the unstructured data, it's not in the structured data. And as you start layering in this unstructured data, you can actually go down the value chain. You can go down the funnel and start predicting lower and lower tier metrics, even getting as low as clicks, conversions, and sales. And that's something that we really specialize at here at BENlabs. So, as Mark will show you later, we're really good at predicting that stuff. Once you've got that piece out of the way and you know that you're going to get your ROI, what's your next opportunity? What's the next problem that you're trying to solve? Back in 2020, big survey was done of marketeers, and we asked them, this publication asked them what their primary problems were. Measurement was number 1. I think we're actually doing pretty well there. ROI was the second, and assuming that you've got those two covered off, the next big problem is, who are you working with the right people? Are you maximizing your investment? Yes, you're breaking even on your investments, but are you really doing the best that you could possibly do? And that's where we've really been digging in the last few years and months, is trying to understand audience behavior and are you selecting the right influencer? So what you can see on the left in this nice 3D model is 350,000 Instagram accounts and various pieces of their data that's then been clustered by an AI. But the real focus of that clustering was based on audience interaction. If an audience engaged with one piece of content and then engaged with another, it kind of pulled those together in the cluster. And so while each of these dots is an Instagram account, they're grouped not around a topic or around a style, but they're grouped by what the audience is consuming. And this has been incredibly powerful for us in terms of content discovery. It's also very difficult to deal with the one on the left. So we built the version on the right, which is a much nicer click interface. I've spent more time than is healthy delving into each of these audience segments and understanding what's going on, who are the big movers and shakers. And then it gets even more interesting when you layer in an individual account. So we can then say, for an individual brand account or a creator, where do they sit in this ecosystem, in this cluster of audiences, and where is their primary areas of which they're getting engagement? That allows us to then say, okay, you're really strong in sector 27, but you've only got a really small positioning in sector 12. Sector 12 would be a great place for you to try and expand, because there's obviously some interest there, and you can then continue to expand your audience. But it's not just brands that are interested in ROI, the creators are as well. And in the creator economy, we're always thinking about both sides of the equation. We have a company called TubeBuddy, which helps YouTubers be better YouTubers, and we're giving them the same sorts of AI tools that we're giving brands in order to be able to maximize the value that they're getting. Generative models to be able to create titles, understandable and explainable AI that's looking at their thumbnails even before they publish them and showing them the most important parts of the image and which image is going to be better and achieve a higher click-through rate. Or even going back through their back catalog and identifying the key moments and parts of the longer form content that can then be repurposed as shorts. And so this is why I really think AI is this absolutely central and nexus point in the creator economy between brands and creators. And as we've been leveraging it, and as Mark is about to show you, the predictive power that you get as a result of this sort of technology is pretty mind-blowing. So with that, I'll hand over to Mark.
Thank you, Alex. Can everyone hear me? So look, thank you for coming to my talk again during lunch. So my name's Mark Bassett, and I'm the guy that has to take the cool stuff that Alex's team is doing and put it into application and practical application to actually work for our clients and our partners. And so I'm the guy who has the teams who are actually trying to execute huge campaigns, launch billion-dollar products, and guarantee ROI for our clients and our partners. And so I'm going to take you through a few kind of top-line case studies. We don't have time to kind of dive super deep into them, but just show you some of the stuff that I think is really cool. My background is gaming. I'm a huge geek nerd. We do a lot of work in lots of different categories. Some of my favorite work is in the gaming sector, so there's a lot of gaming case studies. But kind of diving in, again, unfortunately you can't see, one of the first kind of really cool uses of the tech that Alex's team had created for us is for a client called EA Games. EA Games, major gaming publisher, and they launch some of the world's biggest games every year. We have worked in the gaming space for a very, very long time. We have huge amounts of data on how to launch games, how to keep the life cycle going. And EA came to us and they said, hey, we're launching a Fortnite killer. Fortnite is a major competitor of theirs. If you don't have kids, then you might not know about it if you're not a gamer. If you do have kids, you probably don't hear anything else other than about Fortnite. And so what we did as a team is we sat down with them and we built a strategy and a plan that we knew how many people we needed to hit a critical audience for us to take chunks out of Fortnite's audience and us to launch Apex as Apex Legends as a killer to Fortnite. We used our technology to predict how well talent would perform before we worked with them, because we knew the number we needed to hit, which is about 100 million views in a really tight window. And so by my team having access to technology that could predict how many views that we were going to get from high-performing, high-engagement people, it enabled us to drive over 100 million views, but importantly for EA, it drove them 50 million sign-ups in 1 month. So in the gaming space, that's absolutely ginormous. Like it's billions and billions of dollars worth of revenue. The thing with Apex also is when we looked at the campaign afterwards, just to prove how accurate we were across 100 million views, we were 98.9% accurate. So the sophistication of what the team are building and our ability to predict means that my team, they don't have to make random choices or look at a team of gamers or a group of gamers and say, hey, I want these people. They can be really targeted on who they want, but they can also know exactly what that person's worth to us and to our partner before we work with them. So it's really powerful for our teams. Moving forward into another example, Philo is another one that I like, because I think it really illustrates some of what Alex was talking about with clusters. Philo is a competitor to Netflix in the US. They are owned by AMC and Discovery Networks. And they approached us and said, hey, we're launching this platform, this streaming platform. And they've been running for a while, and it's been quite successful, but they really wanted to ramp up and scale. And we have a lot of people that come to us and say, hey, we want to scale the kind of creator work. We know it's working for us. But as they scale, they start to lose ROI. They start to lose the focus on actually driving new users or driving sales. And so what our team did is we took all the data that they had, which is super important for us. We put it into our tools, and we started to test what they were doing. We started to test actually what our technology was pointing out as people that were interested in some of the shows, that they stream, but weren't people that were guys 18 plus, because that's who they thought they were going after. They have The Walking Dead. They were like, this is our audience. And the really interesting thing is we discovered that actually the people who were the lowest hanging fruit, the people that converted faster than anyone else and signed up faster than anyone else, was actually Afro-Caribbean mums with 2 kids. And so we then pivoted everything we did to focus in on these small groups and small audiences to then drive them signups. And so for Philo, we got them 10x the number of signups that they were achieving by themselves. And by the end of the program, as we were sort of working through it, we were actually up to about 20x. So it was hugely successful for them. Another example that I think is really interesting, Gel Blaster is a toy company. They have a blaster that fires little gel pellets. They're kind of all the rage, super cool. Again, if you've got kids or you're a small child yourself. And we basically, they are new into the market, into the toy market. But they are going against some of the biggest brands and some of the biggest people who have big money to spend in this space, and they wanted to stand out. So what we did with them is we, again, took the data they had. They didn't have much data. They were brand new. They knew like bits and pieces of what worked, and they had some information on what was working for them already. We took that, but we started running tests, and we started trying to understand, okay, where are the clusters of people and where are the audiences that aren't being targeted by their competitors. And so therefore it's easier to convert those people, it's easier to get hold of them than trying to hit them head on in the battlefield, because they're going to be crushed by the major toy companies. Like, it's not going to happen for them. The really cool thing is we drove almost 5x the number of conversions or sales that they were getting. But importantly, we took them from number 5 in the sector to number 1. So this is like game-changing for them. It's taken them from a small business to a vastly growing, quick toy company. I love TikTok. Hugely addicted to TikTok. I'm sure lots of people are. TikTok is now really big for gamers. It's a platform that lots of gamers go on to get tips, advice. They share kind of cool videos. It didn't used to be like that. TikTok came to us and they said, hey, we know gaming is really cool. You guys have done a lot of work in the gaming space. We want to get gamers on. But they were a platform at the time that had lots of people dancing and lots of people just not really doing gaming content. And so they were struggling to bring gaming creators onto the platform, but importantly, those audiences onto the platform. And so, but they had an idea. They knew this was going to work for them. They gave us 10 people. They said, these are 10 people that we really like and we really want to bring on to TikTok. We said, fine. Okay, we looked at the audiences. We looked at some of the data that they gave us, and we highlighted a whole bunch of other people that we knew, based on data that we already had, would convert audiences faster than the 10 that they'd selected. They said, prove it, so we did. So we tested theirs against ours, and ours were almost 2.5 times better at converting audiences to come onto TikTok. The interesting thing about this is we basically did ourselves out of a job. We brought so many people on board from the gaming space that they didn't need us anymore. So I think it was cool. And then not only that, with TikTok, it's even more data that's fueled the teams and fueled the insights that Alex and his team have. So moving on to a kind of final sort of case study that I think is cool. Like, in the influencer space, we talk a lot about scale. We talk a lot about how do we kind of take small things that are working and kind of scale them up. Overwolf, if you don't know the brand, they are the company, they're a really cool Israeli business that is in the gaming space. They're almost like the app store of mods and technology for gamers. Super cool, well worth checking out if you're a gamer. And they're one of the fastest growing companies right now in Israel. I think they're the fastest growing unicorn company in Israel right now. We worked with them to scale up massively the program that we were already running, but importantly powered by and empowered by the data that we knew and had and could model out on people that would convert and download apps inside their app store faster than anyone else. And the thing is, if you're trying to do it at small scale, you can probably take a few hits and a few gambles and you'll probably get a few wins. When you're trying to do it at big scale, and we've done over 3,000 pieces of content for them, and we've driven consistently month after month their CPIs down and down and down. It's super impressive. So it's 3,000 pieces of content. Some of that content is 2 to 3 hours long. It streams, and it's really cool. And so that, from kind of a top line, is sort of, again, summarizing the technology that we have is enabling us to really drive ROI for our clients. It's enabling us to drive not just sales, it's enabling us to actually drive things like sign-ups, understand audiences much better, understand, hey, if someone's been in this space a long time as a brand and they think they've drunk the well dry, where can we find new audiences, new pools of people that you can reach out to? But importantly also digging really into those pools. So not all creators are the same. You might find a bunch of mummy vloggers that you think are great and you think they're all the same. What we're able to do is dive into that and find clusters inside those clusters. So we're finding that actually this pool of people performs way better than this pool of people. But you as a human would have no idea. You'd look at it and you go, hey, they get the same amount of views, they look kind of the same, it's the same kind of content, but it's not true. And so, yeah, so for us, it's really cool. We're excited about it. I think for me, as someone who is kind of working on the execution side of things and the strategy side of things, the most exciting thing for me is this is coming really quick and it's changing really, really fast. Lots of what we're showing, we've been working on for a long time, but it's just getting better and better and better. And if you're not on board with technology and AI as a focus, you're going to be really left behind really, really quickly, because you just won't be able to compete with scale and you won't be able to compete with working with the right kind of people. Questions? Sure, please. Alex, do you want to come up as well? Yeah. People signing up. So people signing up to and downloading TikTok. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So they basically said to us, hey, they'd chosen some people that they thought were really cool, and we said, oh, they're really cool, but basically we know. Influencers, sorry, yes, influencers. Other creators from like YouTube, sorry, I didn't make that clear. So TikTok had highlighted other creators that they'd found on Twitch, they'd found on YouTube that they knew were cool people. And they were, you know, they were right, they were on the right track, but there's always a way to kind of scale it and actually get better results, and so that's what we proved with them.
Another small additional question, like what would be a good rule of thumb in terms of return on investment for different industries so that like people working on different industries can have a benchmark? Like e-commerce is obviously very different from gaming, and like what are the numbers?
It varies wildly. Yeah, it's a big thing that we have that we encourage everybody to do is you have to come with, or ideally come with data. If you've been in this space a long time, a big thing that we're doing is we're working with Alex and his team, and we're saying, hey, this is everything that we can get from literally every part of their business, through to Google Analytics, through to if they've got real world sales, through to like every single aspect. Because what we're doing is we're now actually bigger than just working with influencers. We're doing much wider work now that's going bigger than that, that's understanding much deeper in all kinds of different fields, how we can be driving better ROI and how we can be tweaking small things, or sometimes it's really big things they've not seen and they've not noticed. Like with Philo, when we discovered that actually their audience, or their easiest audience to convert, is not guys. Their easiest audience to convert is these people over here. They changed everything. Like they changed their entire approach as a company to focus on driving that ROI. Is that helpful? Cool. Thank you. Sorry, please.
No worries. Hi guys. Thank you so much for your presentations. My question is about the decentralization, and there's a lot of household company names that you shared there. In relation to your own company, BENlabs, how is BENlabs responding to that move into decentralization? Are you responding to it, or like, how do you deal with this? Yeah. Is that something you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. My mic's working, I'm not sure. So yeah, it's tricky. Is the fundamental. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about data, and so your access to data is the key part there. And so some platforms can be incredibly closed and incredibly guarded about the data that they share, and others not. That's where, again, as Mark has said a couple of times, it's where it's so important when we work with a client, if they do have existing data, they can bring it with them. They can show us how it's working. And we can also look at digital twins and similars and things like that. So if you're working with an influencer on TikTok, for example, that you don't have any data about, you can look at what does their audience look like on another platform. It's not perfect, but it can kind of help. But yeah, it is definitely tricky because, as I said, AI loves scale, and if you don't have the scale in the data, then it can become a problem. We invest a lot in AI, and so we are looking at few-shot learning and knowledge transfer and transfer learning and things like that in order to be able to have a generalized model for maybe general consumer interaction, and then trying to use those kind of techniques. So yeah, good question, but it's very nuanced in answer.
I was just going to add really quickly, actually, from the sort of the person that's working on strategy and the execution side of things. For me, it's about making sure that we're always testing and learning on every platform. Like, we're testing and learning, when a new platform comes up, because things in the digital marketing space, just like AI itself, are changing so fast. And you have to be understanding and learning what new platforms are. And sometimes what we see, and we've seen it a few times, is audiences will move and something over here will maybe become less successful. And so you need to double down and understand this over here. And so more and more and more, like, campaigns are not just focused in on like one platform or one type of thing. It's spread and all kinds of different messages to hit all kinds of different audiences across all kinds of different platforms and all kinds of different things. So it's kind of interesting, and that's also as an execution side. What's exciting is having the technology to enable you to kind of focus and go, hey, this is how I'm going to hit this battle plan in order to work best for my partner. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. Yeah.
Cool. I'm really hot. It's absolutely melting up here.
Absolutely.
Hi there.
Hello.
You've focused a lot on humans and that side of things. I'm really interested in synthetic media and also VTubers, CodeMiko, so on and so forth. I actually run a very successful synthetic media TikTok channel. Just want to know what your vision is for actually when there's no humans creating, and when we move away from human influencers to purely Gen AI influencers.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. So I've actually got a talk later about cybersecurity that goes into a little bit of that. So I'll ruin a bit of that.
I'm definitely going to come to that one then.
Thank you. But yeah, generative models and generative AI, and again, ruining a stat from that later one, 94% of influencers are already using generative models to help with their image editing, image creation, and text generation. So I do think we are definitely heading in those sorts of directions. It's very sci-fi, but it's kind of cool. There are lots of interesting legal questions around that, obviously. There's also lots of interesting ethical questions around that. One of the interesting studies that goes with it, though, is that consumers don't seem to mind. They trust influencer content that's been assisted by AI generation just as much as they do with the original stuff. And it's because, in my belief, the trust and investment that an audience member has made is in that person, and if they are putting out that content, that is what you are trusting. Whether it was made with Photoshop, Avid, or generative model 29367, it doesn't matter. It's still their stamp, and it's still their personality, and it's still their brand that you're subscribing to. But yeah, it's an interesting problem for sure.
Again, just from a kind of my point of view, I think it's a really exciting time. I don't think things are going to slow down at all in the digital space. Like, you just look at how far, again, just from a kind of nerd geek point of view, like Midjourney has come from 9 months ago. It was doing pictures that looked like a child had drawn them, to now it's like almost hard to tell that they've been made by a computer. So to your point, I think it's an exciting time. I think we'll see there'll almost be like an influx of people who are VYouTubers, Twitch stars that will create kind of AI content. And I think that will probably also empower more and more people to get into the economy and try it. Like, when I first started in this space, we were excited about creators who would get, 500 views, 1,000 views, 2,000 views. And then when they were starting to get 1 million views and they were hitting 1 million subscribers, it was super exciting. But I think we're going to see more and more and more and more creators, which means that, again, you need technology to be able to filter through that and be able to also understand what is going to work for you as and your brand or your partner.
Just one follow-on. In terms of niche communities,
Yes.
you know, you've talked a lot about scale, big communities. We're seeing a big turn towards very small scale, very loyal audiences. What is your take on how marketing and ROIs will actually go to that?
Actually, yeah, good question. From my point of view, good question. Like when I talk about scale, it can mean big creator. Actually, it can mean lots and lots and lots and lots and hundreds of smaller creators. So like Overwolf, I think was about 500 really small creators, making lots and lots and lots of content, converting their audiences. So for me, it's about what your objective is, how long you've got, how much time you have, how much budget you have, what you're trying to achieve. Like we work with some partners that are just focused on shifting the needle when it comes to awareness and when it comes to kind of intent to purchase, for example. Whereas we work with other partners that they just want to know they've got 5 sign-ups. And so it really depends massively. But again, I think that's back to the technology. What's exciting for me is I can go into the tech that we have and I can start to explore into the cluster and start to go, okay, at its top level, it's it's a mummy vlogger. Next level down, it's a mummy vlogger who's into tech. Next level down, it's like a mummy vlogger who's into tech. And then you start to find these like small kind of communities, and it's fascinating. I think again, being a gamer, communities has always been a big thing in the kind of gaming marketing space. And I think what we're seeing is other people realize it's a thing.
And to your question about generative AI as well, I think also plays into this. With generative AI, we're essentially giving every single creator infinite monkeys. If everyone's heard the quote of, if you get an infinite number of monkeys, an infinite number of typewriters, one of them's going to create Shakespeare. The critical part there is knowing what Shakespeare looks like. And so yes, we've given these tools that allow people to make vast swathes of content. And indeed, many of the content aggregators and content companies like, for example, Getty, are now banning digitally created and generative AI because it's just swamping all of their traditional AI or traditional content that exists. And so to your point about niches, it is that brand reputation, it is that understanding and that connection that you have with that entity, be it human or AI, it doesn't really matter, but that's what they're really buying into and that's what they're really focusing on.
Great. Thank you so much. I mean, seeing this from my side of it, leader of a large company with technology, obviously I can see so much on that side. Also, a husband who's a YouTuber can see so much on that side, right?
Get me some tube, buddy.
I'm telling you. But great, thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but you guys will be around where for them to ask more questions?
Around and about, or find us online.
Yeah, so please, thank you.
Thank you.